The horrific crimes of Richard Ramirez. In the stifling heat of a Los Angeles summer, terror lurked in the shadows. Richard Ramirez, a figure now etched in infamy, prowled the streets like a malevolent spirit. His crimes, a chilling mosaic of brutality and depravity, would haunt the city for years to come. It was 1985 when Ramirez's reign of terror reached its zenith. The city, already on edge from a string of unsolved murders, found itself gripped by fear as the Night Stalker struck without warning. His victims, chosen seemingly at random, faced a fate worse than death. One such victim was Maria, a young woman with dreams as bright as the California sun. Her encounter with Ramirez began innocuously enough, a trip to the local convenience store on a warm July evening. Little did she know that her path would cross with that of a monster. As Maria walked home, the neighborhood fell into an eerie silence. The streetlights flickered ominously, casting long, distorted shadows. It was then that she felt it, a presence, malevolent and predatory, stalking her every move. Footsteps echoed behind her, growing louder with each passing moment. Maria quickened her pace, heart pounding in her chest. A sudden rustle from the alleyway sent a shiver down her spine. Before she could react, a figure emerged. A man clad in black, his face obscured by the shadows of the night. "Give me your money." His voice, hoarse and venomous, cut through the silence like a knife. Maria froze, her mind racing with fear. She fumbled for her purse, hands trembling. But Ramirez had other plans. With a swift motion, he seized her, dragging her into the darkness of the alley. The next hours blurred into a nightmare of unspeakable horror. Ramirez's eyes, cold and devoid of humanity, bore into Maria's soul as he inflicted pain beyond comprehension. Her cries for mercy echoed in the empty alley, unheard by anyone but the perpetrator of her torment. "You're mine now!" Ramirez hissed, his voice tinged with madness. Maria's ordeal was just one chapter in Ramirez's gruesome saga. The Night Stalker's methods were as varied as they were terrifying. Break-ins under the cover of night, silent intrusions into the sanctity of homes, and the desecration of lives with unspeakable acts of violence. Detective Sanchez, haunted by the escalating brutality of Ramirez's crimes, dedicated himself to the pursuit of justice. His office, a cluttered den of maps and case files, became a battleground where he waged a desperate war against the darkness that threatened to consume the city. "This guy is a ghost," Sanchez muttered, frustration etched on his face as he surveyed the evidence laid out before him. No fingerprints, no witnesses, just pure evil. The city descended into a state of paranoia. Residents bolted their doors, peeking through curtains at the slightest sound. Ramirez's face, plastered on every newspaper and television screen, became the face of fear itself, a chilling reminder of the fragility of safety. But Ramirez remained elusive, slipping through the fingers of law enforcement time and again. His ability to vanish into the night earned him a reputation as a spectral presence, a boogeyman that parents whispered about to their children, warning them of the consequences of venturing out after dark. Months turned into years, each new attack sending shockwaves through the community. The Night Stalker's audacity knew no bounds, striking fear into the hearts of even the most hardened residents. His trail of carnage stretched from Los Angeles to San Francisco, leaving behind a legacy of terror and broken lives. It wasn't until August of 1985 that Ramirez's reign of terror finally came to an end. A vigilant community member, recognizing the Night Stalker from a wanted poster, alerted authorities. A dramatic chase through the streets ensued, culminating in Ramirez's apprehension and the collective sigh of relief from a city gripped by fear. In the cold confines of the courtroom, Ramirez's eyes, once filled with malice, now held a glimmer of something else. Fear. The tables had turned, and the predator had become the prey. As the judge read out the charges against him, Ramirez's facade of indifference cracked. revealing the frailty of a man consumed by darkness. "I am the Night Stalker," he proclaimed defiantly, his voice echoing through the hushed courtroom. The trial that followed was a spectacle of horror and justice, a parade of witnesses recounting tales of unspeakable cruelty, each testimony a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable evil. Ramirez, once a specter haunting the night, now faced the harsh light of justice. In the end, Ramirez was sentenced to death, a fitting punishment for crimes that defied comprehension. Yet, his legacy endures, a cautionary tale of the depths to which humanity can sink, and the enduring scars left in the wake of senseless violence. As Maria, now a survivor and advocate for victims' rights, reflects on that fateful night, she speaks not of vengeance, but of resilience. Her voice, though tempered by the horrors she endured, carries a message of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is light to be found. The story of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, is a chilling chapter in the annals of true crime, a reminder that evil walks among us, hidden in plain sight. It is a story that challenges our understanding of humanity and forces us to confront the darkness that lies within us all. The mysterious disappearance of Brian Shaffer. In the heart of Columbus, Ohio, amidst the vibrant nightlife of the early 2000s, a chilling mystery unfolded that continues to baffle investigators and haunt the minds of those who dare to delve into the story of Brian Shaffer. It all began innocently enough, with Brian, a medical student at Ohio State University, looking forward to a night out with friends to celebrate the end of a grueling semester. Little did he know, this night would change everything. Brian was known for his charisma and charm, a young man with a promising future ahead. On March 31, 2006, he and his friend Clint headed to the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a popular bar near campus. The evening started off like any other: laughter, drinks, and the camaraderie of friends enjoying their youth. As the night progressed, Brian seemed in high spirits. Witnesses reported seeing him laughing and chatting with friends and strangers alike. However, what happened next remains shrouded in mystery. Surveillance footage captured Brian entering the bar, but inexplicably, there was no footage of him leaving. It was as if Brian Shaffer had vanished into thin air. Authorities launched an extensive search, questioning friends, family, and anyone who may have seen him that night. The last known sighting placed him inside the bar, but there were no leads pointing to his whereabouts after that moment. His friends, including Clint, were devastated and perplexed. How could someone vanish without a trace in the middle of a crowded bar? Rumors began to swirl. Some speculated that Brian had chosen to disappear intentionally, overwhelmed by the pressures of medical school and life. Others believed he had met with foul play, perhaps falling victim to an unknown assailant. But one theory gained traction, casting a chilling shadow over the investigation: the possibility that something supernatural had occurred that night. In the weeks that followed, strange occurrences were reported near the Ugly Tuna Saloon. Patrons claimed to hear faint whispers and see fleeting shadows in corners where no one stood. Some even swore they saw Brian himself, his silhouette lingering in the darkness, beckoning for answers. Detective Sullivan, the lead investigator on the case, was both fascinated and unnerved by the mystery. He spent countless hours reviewing surveillance footage, interviewing witnesses, and retracing Brian's steps that fateful night. One detail stood out: a blind spot in the camera coverage near the bar's entrance, a spot where Brian could have potentially slipped away unnoticed. Sullivan's investigation took a darker turn when he stumbled upon an old urban legend whispered among locals. It spoke of a hidden passage beneath the Ugly Tuna Saloon, a forgotten relic from Prohibition days used by bootleggers to smuggle alcohol. Could Brian have stumbled upon this passage, unwittingly unlocking a doorway to something beyond comprehension? One stormy night, Sullivan decided to explore the legend himself. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of unease, he descended into the depths beneath the bar. The air was thick with a musty odor, and shadows danced on the damp walls. It was as if the passage itself was alive, pulsing with a presence that sent shivers down Sullivan's spine. Deeper he ventured, until he reached a chamber bathed in an eerie glow. Symbols etched into the stone walls hinted at rituals long forgotten, and the air grew colder with each step. Sullivan's heart raced as he realized he was standing at the threshold of something ancient and malevolent, a force that had claimed Brian Shaffer and now threatened to consume him. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber, whispering words that chilled Sullivan to the core. "He's here," it murmured, a spectral breeze brushing against his skin. Shadows coalesced into a figure, indistinct yet unmistakably human. It was Brian, his eyes haunted and filled with unspoken terror. "What happened to you?" Sullivan demanded, his voice trembling with fear and disbelief. Brian's ghostly form flickered, as if struggling to maintain its presence. "I found the passage," he whispered, his voice hollow and distant. "It called to me, promised answers. But there are things beyond our understanding. They took me, consumed me." Sullivan's mind reeled as he pieced together the fragments of the puzzle. Brian had unwittingly crossed into a realm where the laws of reality bent and twisted, where the boundaries between life and death blurred into obscurity. The passage had become a gateway, a doorway for malevolent forces hungry for souls. As dawn broke, Sullivan emerged from the depths beneath the bar, haunted by what he had witnessed. The case of Brian Shaffer's disappearance remained officially unsolved, yet Sullivan knew the truth, that some mysteries defy rational explanation, that darkness lurks in the most unexpected places. To this day, the Ugly Tuna Saloona stands as a reminder of the night when Brian Shaffer vanished without a trace. Locals speak in hushed tones of the bar's hidden passage and the souls lost to its embrace. And somewhere, in the shadows between worlds, Brian's spirit lingers, a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. As for Detective Sullivan, he carries the weight of that night with him, forever changed by the encounter with forces beyond comprehension. He knows that some mysteries are best left untouched, that some truths are too terrifying to be revealed. And so, the mystery of Brian Shaffer's disappearance endures, a tale of suspense and horror that continues to haunt those who dare to seek the truth. The brutal murders by the BTK killer. Wichita, Kansas, was a city that thrived on its tranquil suburban life, where families felt safe and children played freely in their front yards. That veneer of security shattered on January 15, 1974, when the Otero family fell victim to a predator lurking in their midst, a predator who would later be known as the BTK killer, an acronym for Bind, Torture, Kill. The morning began like any other. Joseph Otero, a 38-year-old family man, was preparing breakfast while his wife, Julie, tended to their children, Josephine and Joseph Jr. The sun had barely risen when a shadow crossed their threshold. It was Dennis Rader, a seemingly ordinary man who harbored a monstrous secret. Rader had meticulously planned this attack. He knew their routine, their vulnerabilities. He entered the home, brandishing a gun. "Don't scream, and no one gets hurt," he snarled, his voice a chilling monotone. Julie clutched her children, terror etched on her face. "Please, just take what you want and leave us alone." But Rader's desires were far more sinister. He bound the family with cords he had brought, tightening them until their wrists turned purple. He gagged them to muffle their cries. Then, methodically, he began his sadistic ritual. Joseph Otero was the first to die, suffocated with a plastic bag. Julie and her children watched in horror, knowing their fates were sealed. "Why are you doing this?" Julie managed to choke out, her eyes pleading. Rader's response was devoid of emotion. Because I can. One by one, he extinguished their lives, savoring their agony. By the time he left, the Otero home was a tableau of horror, the walls echoing with the silence of a family annihilated. For months, Wichita grappled with the atrocity. The police were baffled, the community paralyzed with fear. Then, in October 1974, a chilling letter arrived at the Wichita Eagle. The author confessed to the Otero murders, describing the crime in grotesque detail. He signed the letter with a moniker that would become infamous, BTK. The letter read, "They were all bounded and gagged with their hands tied behind their backs. I strangled Julie and Josephine in the basement. I strangled Joseph and Joseph Jr. in the living room, BTK." Detective Sam Lentz stared at the letter, his hands trembling. "We've got a monster on our hands," he muttered to his partner, Detective Karen Holt. Holt nodded, her face grim. "And he wants us to know he's out there. He wants the attention." Over the next few years, Rader continued his reign of terror, claiming more victims. Each murder was meticulously planned and executed with the same sadistic precision. Shirley Vian, Nancy Fox. Their names became part of the BTK legend, lives snuffed out by a man who seemed invisible, untouchable. The police were desperate. They scoured crime scenes, analyzed evidence, interviewed countless suspects. But Rader was always one step ahead, leaving behind taunting messages and cryptic clues. His arrogance was maddening, his ability to blend into society terrifying. In a darkened police station, Lentz slammed his fist on the table. "How does he keep getting away?" Holt looked at the crime scene photos spread out before them. "He's careful, meticulous. He knows how to cover his tracks, but everyone makes a mistake eventually." Rader's mistake came in 2004, 30 years after his first kill. Taunting the police once more, he sent a floppy disk to a local news station. Unbeknownst to him, digital forensics had advanced significantly since his last communication. Investigators traced the disk to a computer at Christ Lutheran Church, where Rader was a deacon. On February 25, 2005, Dennis Rader was arrested. The community was stunned. How could this mild-mannered compliance officer, a man who led a Cub Scout troop, be the BTK killer? In the interrogation room, Rader sat calmly, his hands cuffed, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Why, Dennis?" Lentz asked, his voice hoarse with emotion. "Why did you do it?" Rader tilted his head, considering the question. "It was a game to me," he said finally, "a power trip. I controlled their lives and their deaths." The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. Rader confessed to 10 murders, recounting each one with chilling detachment. The jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms. Wichita was left to pick up the pieces, its sense of security forever shattered. The victims' families struggled to move on, haunted by memories of their loved ones and the monstrous man who took them away. In a quiet corner of the city, a memorial stands, bearing the names of Rader's victims. It's a place of reflection, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the most benign of masks. As the sun sets over Wichita, casting long shadows on the memorial, the city remembers. The story of the BTK killer is one of horror and heartbreak, a tale that underscores the fragility of the human condition and the resilience of those who survive.